Snapshot 24W44A is here, starting the development cycle towards the winter drop 1.21.4 with plenty of news for the Pale Garden and more. My name is Slicelime and this is a look at all the changes. Let's start with the Pale Garden and the fact that the winter drop experiment is no more. This biome and all its contents is now a full part of the game to be included in the next release. A new type of flowers now grow in the Pale Garden called Eyeblossoms, and just like an eye, they can open and close. They open during the night and close during the day, with a particle effect as they transition. This transition happens at random, but once one turns, Eyeblossoms within a 3-block radius have a higher chance of also turning within a few seconds, faster the closer they are. When an Eyeblossom turns from being notified, it plays a quicker sound than if it turns randomly. When picked up, they keep the state that they had, but once planted they once again follow the day and night cycle. If you plant them in a dimension that doesn't have day and night, they stay the way you planted them. You can also plant the Eyeblossom in a flower pot, where it will also open and close, but will not notify nearby Eyeblossoms and also not be notified. Bees that try to pollinate on Eyeblossoms will get poisoned. You can also tempt bees by holding one, but trying to feed a bee an Eyeblossom will poison it. You can craft the open Eyeblossom into orange dye and the closed Eyeblossom into grey dye. They are both also suspicious stew ingredients for blindness from open ones and nausea from closed ones. Other ways of obtaining Eyeblossoms are by bone mealing grass blocks in the Pale Garden biome or buying them from the wandering trader. Like other blocks in the Pale Garden, Eyeblossoms have a situational ambient sound. When placed on pale moss and in open state, they emit a soft whispering sound. The other big new addition in this version is Resin. Attacking a Creaking will cause its Creaking heart to spread 2 or 3 resin clumps, which spawns on the sides of pale oak logs that are close and connected to it. This can only happen once every 5 seconds. These resin clumps do not need any special tool to mine and break instantly. 3x3 resin clumps can be crafted into a block of resin, which is a storage block that can be crafted back into clumps. This block is also mined instantly and without any specific tools, and it can also be used for crafting a new Creaking heart together with pale oak logs. Resin clumps can be placed on any full block surface, just like glow lichen. They can also be used as an armor trim material or smelted into resin bricks, which can then be crafted into resin brick blocks. Resin bricks are a block family that have slabs, stairs, walls, and chiseled variants with the regular recipes, and which can also be crafted in a stone cutter. The right tool for all the resin brick blocks is a pickaxe. There are also other ways to obtain resin, by buying the clumps from the wandering trader or finding them in a Woodline Mansion loot chest, where you can also find resin bricks. The resin blocks have new sounds for placing them, breaking them, walking on them, and falling onto them. And resin brick blocks have sounds for the same set of events. The Creaking heart now drops XP when mined, 20 to 24 points, regardless of if it's broken with Silk Touch or not. This only happens for Creaking hearts that were placed with the world, not from player-placed ones. Breaking a Creaking heart without Silk Touch now makes it drop 1 to 3 resin clumps, or more with a fortune enchanted tool. Creaking hearts now also have a unique placement sound. Destroying a Creaking heart with a player-lit TNT now properly grants the Monster Hunter advancement. And a few miscolored pixels in the Creaking heart texture have been fixed. The melee attack of a Creaking now deals 3 points of base damage, which is 1.5 hearts. They now react to damage from mobs and projectiles by swaying in place, which also has a new sound. They also now have a new twitching animation as they move and a new death animation and sound, which plays before they despawn when their Creaking heart is mined. Creakings now ignore cactus, berry bush, and powder snow damage and will walk through or over those blocks, and it is also naturally fire resistant. The Creaking now despawns if a player ends up inside its hitbox for a few seconds, and they now have the ability to animate their heads separately from their bodies. Creaking no longer sometimes spawn inside blocks. A Creaking connected to a Creaking heart now also despawns if it ends up too far away from its heart. They no longer slide around on the ground when not aggroed, and can no longer be pushed around by players and mobs standing on soul sand or mud. Creakings no longer activate for a split second when switching game modes from creative mode to spectator mode, and the particles from attacking one are now properly shown even if your particle settings are set to minimal. Evokers now run away from Creaking with the right speed. In other Pale Garden related news, subtitles for the Pale Garden ambient sounds have now been fixed to be unique. Music no longer plays in the Pale Garden, and any music that plays when entering the biome will fade out and stop. Pale oak leaves with their bottom side exposed now have a chance to spawn falling leaf particles. Player-grown pale oaks will now generate without any decorations like hanging moss or moss on the ground. A bug causing the leaves of dark oaks and pale oaks to be distributed off-center has been fixed. Swords are no longer an efficient tool to break moss carpets or pale moss carpets, and sniffers can now dig in pale moss. Bone mealing pale moss carpets no longer works when the tendrils cannot grow. Pale hanging moss has been changed to break instantly when mined, regardless of which tool is used. You still only get a drop when breaking them with shears. The Wandering Trader can now also sell pale oak saplings, pale moss blocks, and pale hanging moss. Pale oak signs are now consistent with other sign textures, and pale oak hanging signs now use the same block palette as the rest of the wood set. And a few pixels on the pale oak chest boat item icon have been fixed, and the two brightest pixel colors on pale oak boat items are now the right ones. In block and item news, blocks that require support to not pop off have been changed. Any such block is now mineable without a specific tool, although a tool may still break the block faster. This applies to bells, lanterns, soul lanterns, all copper door variants, iron doors, and all pressure plates. In addition, brewing stands can now be broken with any tool, and ender chests now drop obsidian when broken with the wrong tool, instead of dropping nothing. In gameplay news, you can no longer keep sprinting when doing actions that slow you down and that would not let you start sprinting. This includes sprinting while sneaking or crawling, as well as item-based actions like sprinting while blocking, eating, or using a goat horn. Flying through climbable blocks in creative mode no longer slows you down, and using control and pick block in creative mode no longer gives you a new item if you already have that item in the inventory. The base damage of the power enchantment is now back to what it was before it was unintentionally reduced in Minecraft 1.21. Wind charges now ignite TNT minecarts. And arrows and tridents no longer glitch when caught in a wind charge burst or an explosion, and they also no longer glitch when shot at blocks underwater that generate bubble columns. The title of written books now once again show up when placed in item frames. The trading window now closes if the villager you're trading with leaves the interaction range. Hitting the tail of an ender dragon now works. And interacting with a bee while holding a wither rose now gives the bee the wither effect instead of making it happy. And blocks at the very bottom of the world now show up on a map properly. A world generation fix. Cave carvers can now carve through snow, so there's no longer sometimes snow blocks hanging in the air around cave openings. In visual news, you no longer start flickering or turn invisible when flying elytra at high speeds. Chunks on the very edge of the render distance are now properly synchronized and shown. Baby cats and ocelots have been returned to the right size and now once again have their tails attached. When a dirt block turns into grass underneath a snow layer, it now properly gets its snowy side texture. And the nether brick texture now lines up with the regular brick texture. In user interface news, shadows on text have been fixed in a few places and some titles have been moved to not be too close to borders. The main menu panorama has been updated to show a pale garden biome. The empty state for the air bubbles now show up quicker when your air depletes underwater. Some texts that could sometimes get cut off are now word wrapped. This includes the tutorial hint for movement if your movement keys have been rebound, and some advancement texts. The position of advancement tooltips on the advancement screen is now adjusted to not cut off long descriptions. The hat layer of other players in multiplayer now appears the same way on the tab list, regardless of how far away that player is. The empty slot outlines of the different screens now all have the same style. And the last language is now deselected if you exit the list using keyboard navigation. In sound news, there are now subtitles for all the crossbow loading sounds, and new subtitles for fish swimming, riding minecarts underwater, skeleton horses jumping in water, and flying with elytra. And this version also comes with stability fixes, including crash fixes and a fix for errors when trying to connect to servers, sometimes showing a wall of text instead of an error message. Of course, this version also comes with plenty of technical changes in Datapack version 58 and Resource Pack version 43. If you're also interested in those, keep an eye on the channel for a separate video coming soon. But that's all for this time. Required mechanisms for registering your appreciations are found in their traditional locations. Thank you for watching. My name is Sliced Lime. I'll see you next time.